So welcome back to the Braver by the Day podcast. Josh here from Albury, Australia. For today's show notes, go to braverbytheday.com/18. That's braverbytheday.com/18. Today I'm joined by my first returning guest, Simon Dewar from Oxfit. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit more fun in the fitness and health realm than what we have talked about up until this point, and that's Tough Mudder, which Simon is a recent, what they call a finisher from his t-shirt there. He's actually live in studio with me, so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about something that I've noticed is happening with fitness, and that's that across the board is becoming maybe more of an attractive thing for normal people to do. And I think part of it maybe because it's being gamified a little bit, which I think is an interesting topic. So we're going to talk about some apps and how even Tough Mudder's kind of got a social gaming kind of element built into how they're promoting their platform. So just introduce yourself quickly for anyone who isn't familiar with the assignment, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, hi, I'm Simon Dewar. I've got a business called Oxfit, and I focus on more strength training and the like. But I've sort of had my own personal fitness journey from being extremely obesely overweight to something I could probably call a little bit fitter and stronger now. So,
excellent, that's great, mate. So, for anyone who may want to learn a little bit more about Simon's company, Oxfit, and just his basic ideas on fitness, you can go back to episode 2. So that's braverbytheday.com/02. And we expand upon his business and most basic kind of health and diet tips in there for anyone who is interested in that. But today I just want to get a breakdown of Tough Mudder, what it is, why you took part in it, the fact that it's a group activity as opposed to a solo fitness activity. I think that's an interesting perspective that seems more common now with boot camps and CrossFit and all those sorts of things taking on a really group kind of element. So maybe first on, can you just explain what your first impression of Tough Mudder was when you first saw it? Because I remember it just exploding on social media, and it almost had a very, for the lack of a better term, a very masculine, macho kind of vibe to it, which it seems to have softened in their approach marketing-wise in maybe the last 12 months. So
I think when I first heard of Tough Mudder, I looked at some of the obstacles that they had, because I saw it on their website, and they've been running it for quite a number of years now, and I'd never really wanted to take part of it because I thought there is no freaking way I'm going to be able to go over any of these obstacles. And I had a look at some of the obstacles, and some of them absolutely scared the bejesus out of me. I mean, you're looking at a 12-foot high wall, and you think, how the hell am I going to get over the top of that? Or you're looking at 15-foot drops into muddy water and thinking, why would anybody want to do that? But then after a while, when I sort of did get a little bit fitter, I thought, this looks pretty challenging. This is something I think I'd really like to do. And so that was something that it was something that I've always wanted to do. So I eventually got the opportunity to do it.
So your initial trepidation about the style of activity that it is was kind of overcome just by the fact that you thought, now that you're a bit fitter and stronger, that it might be the next level of challenge to take part in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. So we maybe had a similar impression to begin with, to some degree, that it looked challenging. For me, it looked, as I said, maybe a little bit built up and pumped up kind of sort of thing I wouldn't normally go for fitness-wise, but I agree, I saw it as being pretty challenging, and I thought, wow, I'd need to be not just a little bit fitter, but a lot fitter to take that stuff on.
I think in terms of fitness, you do certainly need to have a bit of fitness about you. But you know what? I mean, they say it's the toughest event on the planet. All due respect to Tough Mudder organisers, I don't think it really is. It is challenging. There's no doubt about that. I mean, if I had to do it by myself, there is absolutely no way I'd be able to do it. So I went with a team of people. And there were 6 guys and three ladies, all varying levels of fitness. But you know what? We managed to get through it all. We tried everything. It was fun. We had an absolute ball.
And that's kind of the key of today's conversation, and that's kind of where I want to go with today's chat. It probably won't be quite as long as our last talk, because I really want to knuckle down on that concept of fun and fitness. Maybe not something that people normally put together. I know I certainly wouldn't have, maybe a couple of years ago. Would you say, though, for anyone who is hearing the Tough Mudder talk, it's maybe like, I've seen Tough Mudder and I don't think I could ever do that. When you say that there's a base level of fitness, would you say that it needs to be quite a bit fitter than a normal person, or just you can't just go in there cold off the street and think that you're going to be able to take on an event like that?
I reckon most people would be able to do it. I really do.
Oh,
I
really?
think you just have to have the right mental attitude for it.
Yeah.
If you did go in it by yourself and you had absolutely you didn't do any strength training or anything like that at all, you would definitely struggle. But I think if you had a bit of fitness about you and went and had a crack at it, yeah, you'd do it. And I think it's a lot more fun if you do it within a team.
Yeah.
Certainly that.
Getting back, that's kind of where I want to go next, is the fact that you did it as part of a team. And as I said in the introduction, it's something I've seen happening more and more when it comes to fitness, is people talking about it as a team activity or a group activity, and also as something that can be fun. So for you as a trainer, do you like the idea of the group sort of style fitness? Obviously, you run your own kettlebell boot camp style things and all that sort of stuff. The listener can go back to episode 2 to find out exactly how you run those sorts of things. But is that something that actually appealed to you about getting back into fitness? Or was it had become more of a group activity than a solo, plug it out in the gym kind of thing?
I do my solo training. You know, I do that, and there's a place for it. But then when you're coming down to boot camps or anything like that, I think the group activities are great because they do give you that sense of community. You know, I mean, there were times when I was doing boot camps. If I was going there and I knew that I was the only one who was going to be there, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I go there because I thought, well, there's other people that are going to be doing it as well, and who I've grown to know and you know, quite enjoy kind of, you know, training with them. You know, so that sense of community is really helpful when you're, you know, going on your own fitness path. But when it comes to, you know, events like Tough Mudder, there were heaps of people doing it in teams, you know, and they were doing it in teams because they wanted that sense of community. They wanted, I guess, not people to hold their hand when they ran around the course, but they just wanted that sense of camaraderie. You know, you look at places like CrossFit and things like that, and I mean, they've all got that sense of community about them. I think it's really important, and it's something that I think a lot of event people are probably focusing on now as well.
To make it feel like a group, an exciting activity for the group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that makes me more interested in maybe doing something like Tough Mudder one day or moving into CrossFit, because I think after a while, and this might be the last thing I say about general fitness today as a non-trainer, but it can become a little bit boring and just same old if you're continuously having to push yourself and there's no, you know, that camaraderie is not there of people as a group making progress or achieving goals. It can be a little bit lonely, for the lack of a better term, in the trying to get fit if you're only doing it by yourself all the time.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, I wanted to jump into just that fun element. And we've got an idea now of how you feel about the group activity, I guess, of fitness in groups, whether it's Tough Mudder or CrossFit or whatever it happens to be, group kettlebell sessions. How do you feel about the idea of gamifying fitness? I mean, for anyone who's not familiar with gamifying, I might just clarify how my understanding of that. And that's basically taking, in the modern sense, there's usually an online community forum where people can play games or there's scores. The marketing of the actual fitness activities is very about the group and group success and people having fun and great big pictures everywhere, and just about basically tracking your whole group and making it into like a friendly competition. And then maybe I'll talk about a few apps that I've discovered, and maybe you know some that I don't, being more entrenched in the industry. But is that something you've seen, or am I just pulling that out of the air there?
As I said, it all comes back down to that sense of community. Gamifying things, I don't know. I mean, if it was like an event like Tough Mudder, or, I mean, you look at a lot of obstacle races that are coming up, Spartan Races and things like that, they're all got that element of challenge and obstacles and the like, you know. I think when it comes to gamifying, as you say, you know, having leaderboards and whatnot online and even probably in the studio itself. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of sense of benchmark for other people to want to be able to try and achieve a lot more. Absolutely. So, no, I do agree with that in a way, yeah.
Just maybe for an example of some gamified exercise activities that I've found. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these. It's probably because I'm a big geek that I know about it, but Steve Cam's Nerd Fitness. Steve Cam, I'll expand upon all these cool games that he plays. There's Tough Mudder, that kind of has like a fun, playful marketing vibe. And obviously it's kind of pushed as being something that's great to succeed on your own, but it's even better to succeed as part of a group. There's all the Fitbit and Jawbone things where people are tracking steps and they're competing on who can get the most steps in a day or in a week, or who's been doing such and such on their different runs and all those kinds of things, like the Nike Run Keeper. There's one that you might be familiar with too, which is an extension of that, and that's an app for iOS, and that's Zombie Run. For any movie fans out there that are into zombie movies or The Walking Dead, there's a game that you can get that actually plots out an escape from a zombie horde as you're actually doing your run with your earphones in, and that can be pretty exciting. So there's obviously been a crossover between technology, the gaming vibe of community success and making things playful, and exercise. So is there any that you know about, or did you know about the ones I just talked about?
I did know about the zombie one, and I mean, I'm not a runner. I hate running, and I did try it. And I think I got kind of hit pretty early in the stage, so I didn't really bother. But yeah, no, I have heard of a lot of those things. Nerd Fitness, no, I have not heard of.
I'll expand upon Nerd Fitness because I think as a movie fan, you might really appreciate this. The way Steve Camp's actually set up Nerd Fitness, and I think he might have his own podcast. I know he guests on a lot of other shows, so just look up nerdfitness.com. It'll be in the show notes. He has things like they set out a walking or a steps-based activity, but instead of just making it a normal step-based activity, it's based around walking as the Fellowship of the Rings all the way to Mordor and back. Right. So you're actually doing activities within like the nerd culture. Or, for example, if you're achieving a lot in the gym, your metachlorine count would go up from Star Wars.
Ooh, okay, now I'm kind of really like that.
Yeah, I know. For anyone who's a geek out there, that probably and he's really pushing that crossover between interactive games too, with a lot of new apps that he and his team are designing that are almost full role-playing RPG style games on iOS and Android and all that actually coordinate with your real-time exercise. I mean, it's something for me that I think it would push me to maybe get out and do more aerobic exercise, knowing that there's a fun movie culture element to it. So,
look, I reckon whatever it takes for you to get out there and do something, I reckon it's awesome. But increasing my midichlorian count, yeah, I want to do that.
I think we all want to do that. For anyone who doesn't get the Star Wars reference, you might want to Google that one. So, yeah, that's something that I just wanted to bring up. And just getting maybe back more specifically to Tough Mudder. When you started out the day, how serious was it as a group? Do you think it was more serious or less serious than if you were there by yourself?
I think if I was there by myself, there probably would have been a lot of mud in my pants. It was I wouldn't say it was terrifying because, I mean, we had our team there. We had our team of 9, and the first obstacle was getting into the start chute. And so you had to go over this 8-foot high wall to get into the start chute. And there were people like who didn't know each other helping over the wall, to get into the start chute. And so it was kind of 250 people in this little area, and we were just an entire little community there. Everybody was supporting one another. There was a guy on the microphone, and he was kind of, getting us all geared up and ready for it. He was telling us all the safety stuff and the like, if there's an obstacle you don't want to do, don't do it, just bypass it. It's okay. But, he was really revving us up and gearing us up, lots of hoorahs and the like. And I mean, he was talking for a good 10 minutes. I'll tell you what, it was real inspiring stuff to listen to. It was great.
Rocky movie style.
It was awesome. It was really, really cool, And then, we sort of got into the countdown. We took the Tough Mudder pledge and got into the countdown, and we were on our way.
That sounds pretty exciting. And what were the actual team at Tough Mudder like? Obviously, they know that there's probably a bit of a misconception out there that you're going to go there and get shouted at like a boot camp on The Biggest Loser. It's actually, they seem to be, from what I've seen on YouTube and from people that I've talked to, they understand the culture is communal fun, and for people to finish what they can, not get punished for what they can't.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the whole idea of Tough Mudder is to simply just finish the course. That's it. It's to help other people finish the course if you see them struggling. So there is always that support there. Nobody's going to yell at you. If you don't want to do an obstacle for whatever reasons, nobody's going to yell at you and make you do 300 burpees on the spot just because you're not going to do an obstacle. They really do support you. They really do. And all of the other Tough Mudders that are there doing it will support you as well.
So that's awesome, Simon. We've talked a little bit about touched on that fear there, which is something I'll maybe cover a little bit again later. But can you just take us through maybe some of those obstacles that really maybe scared you you did mention, you used the word scare, so hopefully I'm okay to use that as well. Yeah. And also maybe you saw a lot of people having trepidations about, like tackling. Could you just describe maybe them physically and then break down the emotion that you're actually feeling at the time?
Well, there was two obstacles that I really did fear, and that was one called trench warfare and the other was called boa constrictor. And what they essentially were was crawling through tight tunnels. Now, I get very claustrophobic. I hate having things over my face. I really don't like it. And coming up to these obstacles, man, I knew I either had to sort of go, I could go around it if I wanted to, but I thought, you know what, I'm here. I need to kind of try and get over this fear of confined spaces. I said, it's just for a little time. I'll just plow through. I'll just keep on going. And I think after I went through the trench warfare one, halfway through, I got a little bit stuck. And I was, if you get stuck in a confined space and you get stuck in somewhere where you're not comfortable with, panic can take over and panic can destroy you. It really can. But it was just one of those things you just had to keep going. I just had to keep going through my head, just one foot after another, one arm after another, because I was crawling through mud, in this thing. And, by the time you could see light at the end of that tunnel, it got a little bit better, and I think when you sort of come out the end of something, if you do tackle your fear, you come out just a little bit stronger, and I think that when it came to doing the boa constrictor, probably a few kilometers down the track, I was more comfortable in doing that, sliding down a pipe head first into muddy water and coming out or crawling up the other end of it, reasonably okay with that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important. And it probably, a lot of people did have a lot of fears and they didn't want to do some of them, and that's totally fine. You'll do those challenges when you're ready to do them, but I think it's important to not back away from fear. I think you've got to kind of look at it head on and just think, you know what, you're not going to beat me today. I'm going to give it a go.
That's awesome. So you would say that Tough Mudder itself is almost like a good representation of the idea of fear, and then making small wins and basically approaching just those little wins and using that energy to carry you forward. Yeah,
for sure. Because I think that, like, some people on our team were scared of a few obstacles. I thought, when they looked at them, they thought, how am I going to get over this? How am I going to get over this wall? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But it turned out that if we work together as a team and we help people over walls and things like that, and they were thinking, well, I can do this now. Wow, I've actually sort of scaled a 12-foot wall. How many?
That's awesome.
It's one of those things that, they start when we're in at the start, everybody's, all keyed up. Yeah, we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. But deep down, you're thinking, I'm probably not strong enough to do this. But by the time you get to the end of that course, you think, you know what, I can tackle anything. I really should give anything a go.
That's awesome. Do you think that's part of why Tough Mudder do what they do, and why they actually maybe set the games up and the marketing and the idea and all of the story behind the company? You could choose, I'm assuming, 1,000 different forms of fitness that would be more profitable and far less labour intensive to organise than doing a Tough Mudder, because even just the physical act of setting up the course would take a lot of manpower. Is it about the message, do you think, with Tough Mudder? Something to take away maybe more broadly than just fitness?
The message for the participants?
Oh, the message of just basically getting small wins and using that to fuel yourself to take on bigger and bigger challenges.
I think so, yeah. Absolutely. Whether that was their intent or not, I don't know. But
maybe it's just developed, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I certainly took away from it. I certainly took away the fact that if I can do Tough Mudder, then or if anybody can sort of do Tough Mudder, you'll be able to do anything. You really will. All you got to do is just apply yourself and just give it a go.
And one thing that I think that kind of works towards is, and something maybe just about this show in general, is I touch on a lot of different areas. And if you were to ask a podcast professional, that's probably not such a great idea for building a show. Whereas I'm trying to approach it from the 30,000-foot view, and that is little wins in any aspect of your life. And for some reason, particularly physical things, because it is your actual body and your vessel that you're moving around in. It permeates all aspects of your life. You can go into other situations with more confidence, or even just more physical challenges in day-to-day life, which I've talked about with a few past guests, of preparing your body to be able to do what you would actually do in day-to-day life, like picking up a child and your keys and balancing the shopping or whatever all at once, anything crazy like that. That's something that I think Tough Mudder would actually give people, and it's probably why I'm interested in it, is the fact that I know that if I could do something like that, I might also feel confident enough to, make a few sales calls for my business this week that maybe I was a little bit hesitant about, or, if you're struggling for a date, it might give you confidence to ask if someone out on a date, or just to go for coffee with someone in your family that you need to apologise to, or a million other things. Did you feel that kind of energy flow on through the week or through the month?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, when we crossed that finish line, we were absolutely wrecked, but we were stronger than before we started. We really were. Like, mentally, I think everybody was just so pumped up. They were just ready. They think, you know what, bring it on. Bring whatever is happening in my life is insignificant, or it's something that I can now, challenge. I can do it. I can do things, because you're just proving to yourself that just with the right people around you, offering to just a little bit of a leg up, or even when it comes down to just conquering your fear and just giving something a go, it's amazing.
That's pretty powerful, mate. That's fantastic. That might lead into maybe the end of the conversation, and that's if we were to maybe give people an idea of a few things to think about if you are looking to move into a group activity of any kind, but we'll make it specific to Tough Mudder, so we have that reference for today. Number one we can start with is pick the right team that's going to function well, support each other, and be there for each other. I mean, I think that's a good place to start. If you're going to do a group activity, you want to make sure that everyone's on the right page, so to speak. What else did you do in your preparation? Was there kind of a sifting process for finding the right team members, or was it just an open thing? Or
no, it was just an open thing, but I think that we all enjoyed a bit of fun.
Okay.
And I think that was probably the most important.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to put you on the spot about talking about your team members there. You wanted to take fun people with that approach.
Yeah, and I wasn't the team captain on this thing. There was another lady had organised it all, and so I was brought into the team. And I probably didn't meet half of these people probably until about 2 weeks before the actual event. And man, there's some funny people. They are awesome. They really are great people.
That's good. So, do you think those relationships of finding that particular team and that right crew will carry on beyond just Tough Mudder going forward?
For sure.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got picking a good team, making sure, and there's no reason why your team couldn't be really, really serious about it either, just for the listener. You don't have to approach everything as fun. I know we've talked about exercise as fun today, but you could pick a team that really is going in there with that intention of really physically exerting yourself and putting in a commanding performance, for the lack of a better term.
Oh, you could, yeah, absolutely.
So I just wanted to put that out there for the more serious fitness people.
I think even then, as long as your personalities kind of clicking together,
definitely.
That's really what a team is.
So team harmony, I guess, is a good way to sum that up. And just as far as your actual preparation, did you do any? You said that you met the team. Was that just a face-to-face meeting, or were you actually training with the intention of getting ready for specific events?
We did a little mini mudder.
A mini mudder?
Mini mudder.
I like that.
We did that, and that was a trainer. A local trainer, she ran us through the course, and it was great. It was really, really good. I'm continually doing my own training, of course, my own strength-based training, and people were doing their own things. So we kind of got together a few times. Just when people could get together, they'd get together and organise something. And
it actually reminds me of a concept by an author named Jim Collins, who is a big business author, but he has one particular ideology, I guess, that can be applied to anything in life, and that's the concept of fire bullets before cannonballs. And just to put that story in perspective, and it's kind of an example of what you guys were doing with your mini mudder, and that's if you know you're about to approach a big decision or make a big move or do something that's out of your comfort zone. The example he gives is if you've got a battleship and you've only got one cannonball and you have an enemy that's bearing down on you and you've got a few bullets and a cannon that hasn't had the sight aimed up properly, so you're not even sure if you do fire your one cannonball that you're even going to hit the other ship. maybe just fire a few bullets first and see if you can hit the other ship with a bullet, and then get your alignment right on your cannonball before you go off and, jump straight into something. So I know that takes a bit to work it back to your example, but I think it's appropriate that you guys basically fired a few bullets before you launch your cannonball with the mini mudders and getting the training in and actually meeting and getting familiar with each other personality-wise. Was there any clashes? No, you don't have to name anyone, obviously, but was there anything that you were thinking, wow, I don't know whether this is the right team? Because I know that's something that a lot of people deal with day-to-day outside of fitness is you're in a team with someone that you don't feel like you function well with.
I think, and this is probably what made it such a really awesome experience, was that everybody was just great. They really were. We all just got along so well. I mean, we all shared a house together while we were down there. So
wow,
it was all
that's cool.
Okay. I mean, we had, of the 6 guys, there were probably 3 of us who were middle-aged, and then there was 3 young blokes, about 18 years old they were. And then the 3 ladies, so we're all a bit of a mix of personalities, but we all melded into one bloody Mudder Oath team, which is what we were called. Yeah.
That's awesome. So maybe just to finish up for today, would you say that it's definitely something that a lot more people should consider doing than maybe just your fitness-oriented person?
I think so, absolutely. Yeah. I think definitely have a go at it. As tough as it may look, if you've got a good team to sort of help you, you're going to blitz through it. You really will. I mean, we didn't set any record times. A lot of the people thought, wow, 21-kilometre course, we've got to run that 21 kilometres. You can't run that 21 kilometres because you're ankle deep in mud for half of it. You can't run through mud.
Yeah.
But so we kind of just trudged through most of the course. So, no, it was great. I'd definitely do it. Definitely.
Cool. That's a good way to finish up. So just for anyone who might want to look you up online or find out more about your actual personal training or anything like that, I know that you've got Oxfit. Is there a website for Oxfit?
Yeah.
Is that oxfit.com.au?
Okay,
oxfit.com.au, and that's oxfit.com.au. Is there anything else you wanted to leave the listener with, Simon? Any words of encouragement inside of the Tough Mudder idea or outside of?
Face your fears. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you'll be stronger. You really will be.
Awesome, mate. That's great. So once again, for the show notes, braverbytheday.com/18. Thank you to Simon for being my first return guest. Let me know what you think of Simon, because I'm hopefully going to get a few people back, Simon being one of them, every so often to share new stories of, bravery and persistence and grit. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you later. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Josh.